Hi everybody, it's gothatfunk with you, and over the weekend I broke the 1,000 subscriber mark, and this is my 250th video, and consequently I'm going to do my what if video now. All my viewers who asked questions asked what would have happened if, and then picked a historical thing and changed it, or what would happen if, and picked some random possible future event and asked questions along those lines. So let's get to it and see how many we can cram in the amount of time we've got here. Okay. Bloody Red Iron asks me, what do I think things would be like if YouTube hadn't been made? Would I have found another creative outlet, or was YT what drew me into making videos? Well, I've been wanting to make videos for a couple of years, but it was definitely YouTube that inspired me to finally pull my finger out and get on with it. I do love making videos, and I think when I finally get a video converter where I can convert file formats, my videos are going to be a lot more creative. Than they have been recently. Right, Abby Normal 1 and also Blood Angel 13 ask more or less the same question. What do you think would have happened if you never moved to the UK? Well, I'm going to assume that I still would have married my first wife since we got married in America before coming here. And that way I could still keep my kids that I have. So anyway, if I never moved to the UK, I assume that means I would have stayed in America on the radio station I was at. Ironically, about 5-6 weeks after I moved away, somebody got fired at the station, and I would have got bumped up on the chain of command. About 6 months after that, another guy got fired, and I would have been the number 2 person at the station at that point, because my old roommate was number 1. So I think I would have gotten quite a bit more sort of success on the radio. How far I would have taken that is an open question, because a lot of it would have come down to my wife, and obviously, when we got married, we got pregnant straight away, so I don't really know if I would have been as mobile in radio with children as I was before I had kids. More sci-fi than science, which is a great username, asks, what if the United States elected a fundy who made homosexuality illegal? Well, I kind of do think that there would be something of a social revolution if that happened. What would actually happen if? I think a lot of people would go to jail at first until they found out that the law was unenforceable, and I think it'd be like prohibition. It'd probably stay illegal for a few years, and then, you can't make something illegal that people will not enforce. So, there you go. Derek359, one of my favorite YouTubers, asked me probably the favorite question on this whole list. What would have happened if George W. Bush was caught receiving oral sex from an intern? How would Republican right-wing hacks justify their willingness to impeach Clinton but not Bush? Bonus question, what would have happened if the intern was male? Well, I think they would have justified their unwillingness to impeach Bush on the basis that we're at war during the Bush years, and the whole we're at war card was pulled out every time somebody tried to criticize Bush, so I don't think this would be any different. However, if the intern was male, this is where my spontaneous conspiracy theorist kicks in, because I happen to think if George Bush got caught receiving oral sex from a male intern, dead men can't tell secrets. I do believe that such a person would be snuffed, and it would never make the light of day. Anyway, Rith Randall asks, what would have happened if Constantine never made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire? Well, I think Christianity would have died out as a sort of local thing to the sort of eastern and northern Mediterranean. I don't think it would have spread very far if it wasn't for the facts that the Roman Empire sort of helped it to spread, as it were. Bonus question, what would happen if George Lucas makes sequels to the original Star Wars trilogy? I do actually think that's in production at the moment, and I think it's going to be great. Boyuki asks me, what would happen if ID cards came in the UK in the near future? Well, I'm going to have to do a whole video on this one. I've been meaning to do this for months, actually, but suffice to say, if ID cards came in the near future, I don't think there would be any immediately adverse effects that were obviously obviously observable. However, I do believe that ID cards are a significant diminishment of civil liberties, and I'm going to have to do a video on that because it's too involved to get into. But I mean, the short answer to your question, Boyuki, is nothing would actually happen at first. No one's going to lose any sleep over it, and no one's going to go to jail straight away for it or anything like that. It's just going to cost a lot of money and not really solve any problems. But like I said, I'll make a video about that in future. Tukey Guy asks, what if humans were suddenly wiped off the face of the earth? Would another species evolve into a dominant, controlling one like us? Chances are good, but it might take millions of years before that happened. Like tens of millions of years even. You never know. I mean, it depends on what wiped the human race out. If we got wiped out by disease, I don't think nature would really have much of a hiccup about that. If we got wiped out by famine, same story. On the other hand, if we get wiped out in a nuclear holocaust and we change the ecology of the planet with a several centuries long nuclear winter, anything can happen. But I don't think it would snuff life itself out. But yeah, I do think that if there was a nuclear winter, the whole ecology of the planet would change for thousands of millennia. Freethinker3161 asks me, what would things be like if 9/11 didn't happen? Actually, I ask myself that question all the time. I personally think if there was no 9/11, George Bush would have been a one-term president, and we would probably be into the second term of a John Kerry presidency right now. That's my opinion. I don't think George was responsible for 9/11. I know people seem to think I am that kind of person. However, I'm not. I have suspicions about 9/11, as we've already talked about, and I'm going to talk more about that after I do more research. AP Durant asks, what would happen if everyone who disagreed with the political system were free to leave it? Short answer, I think there would be civil war. Not right away, but you can only have so many people leave. Because if you're going to leave society's rules, you have to leave all the benefits of society as well, which means you can't use money, which means you can't own property, etc., etc., etc. So if you're willing to give up on use of money and make no claim on any property, then I think it would be fair to leave the system. But then again, where the hell are you going to live? Who's going to protect you, etc., etc. So I don't think it's a great idea. It sounds like a recipe for anarchy in the negative sense of the word, and also it recipe for civil war. Second question from AP Durant: is it morally right to leave your home country for another that suits your politics better, or should you stay and try and change the homeland? Well, this is actually a question I've struggled with myself over the past 10 years because in 2002. I could see where America was going in terms of the rhetoric and the war and everything else like that, and I was this close to moving home to be a voice of the opposition, as it were, because I felt really strongly that America was moving in the wrong direction, and it is my country, even though I don't live there. So I didn't move to this country though for any political reasons. I don't stay here for political reasons, but I have to say that. If I really did think, now that my kids are grown up especially, if I really did think America was going too far the wrong way, I would move back. Right. Mrs. Tilly Battersby asks, what would have happened had McCain and Palin won and McCain croaked in his first year in office? Would there have been an early rapture? Well, early Armageddon, maybe so, but there is no rapture. The only rapture I believe in is the one I get when I watch Beware the Lizards videos. Anyway, I don't think that if McCain and Palin got elected, I happen to agree. I think that the stress of office would have made McCain croak a lot earlier than he will do now that he's not president. And in fact, I think Sarah Palin would have been the ultimate puppet president. I don't think she had an original thought in her entire life. So, call me what's the word, chauvinist if you want to, but I think she's a ditzy bitch. Anyway, right, Vision Ghost Poet asked me, what would happen to the survival of the human race if suddenly all negative emotional attributes spontaneously vanished from the human psyche permanently? Well, that's an interesting question. I personally think we would go extinct. Here's why. First of all, you have to define what are negative emotional attributes, and things, I guess you would include things like guilt, jealousy, greed, anger, lust. And without any of that, I don't really think that there's enough impetus to sustain survival. Those aspects of our psychology exist for a reason. Maybe not for a reason in the sense that they've endowed with a reason, but from a survival point of view, they all do have beneficial aspects to them. in terms of reproduction and survival. So yeah, without fear, anger, and so on, you can't get aggressive. And if you can't get aggressive at a time you're under well, and I suppose you could argue that no one could get aggressive, and therefore everything would be great. But I don't actually think it would work out that way. And I'm going to have to make this the last question. Debbie Omi asked me, what if Jimmy Janis and Jim Morrison didn't die so young? How would music be different? I'm not so sure that it would be different. I kind of think that certainly in the case of Janis and Jim Morrison, I think they would have just become washed up has-beens after a while and probably ended up hosting talk TV shows. Jimi Hendrix would have gone a long way, I'm sure. But again, I don't think he would have been a huge star any more than he already was, and I think what influence he had over music he had while he was alive. In fact, I would say the same for the other two as well.